Okay, so on the review, the top of it gives you formulas that you need to know for tomorrow. So all of these you have to have memorized for tomorrow. We're not giving you any formulas on the quiz. So you have to know your slope formula. You have to know the equation of a circle. So in our equation of the circle, what we're adding on the inside and what we're adding on the outside would be our center. And then we take the square root of what it's equal to. That gives us the radius. When we have parallel lines, they have the same slope. When we have perpendicular lines, they have opposite reciprocal slopes. And then we have our two equations for a line. So point slope form is the first one, and slope intercept form is the second. So you got to know both of these as well. So let's take a look at the bottom 4 questions. So let's start with number 1. It says identify the center and the radius of each of the following. So let's find our center. What would the center be for number 1? Awesome. 3, 0. What we're adding to the x and what we're adding to the y, but here we're not adding anything to the y, so it would just be 0. And then what is our radius? Perfect. We take the square root of what it's equal to, so that would be 4. Let's do number 3. What's our center for number 3? -3, 4. Awesome. When you write the center, you flip the signs. And then what's our radius? Perfect. Take the square root of what it's equal to. The square root of 25 would be 5. Let's look at number 2. So let's start with the center. What would our center be for number 2? 0, 2. And then what would our radius be? So for our radius, we would take the square root of 40, but we got to break that down since 40 is not a perfect square. What are 2 factors of 40? 10 and 4. 2 factors of 10? 5 and 2. And 2 factors of 4? 2 and 2. So we circle any pairs that we have. So I have a pair of 2s. So it would come to the outside. 2. What stays on the inside? 5 times 2, which would be 10. So 2 square root 10 is what this simplifies to. And then lastly, let's do number 4. Let's start with our center. What would our center be for number 4? -1, -2. Perfect. And then what would our radius be? 6. Awesome. All right, let's look at the next page. We want to write the equation of a line that passes through the given line and is parallel to our given line. Passes through the given point, this should say. So starting with, well, I'll do 13. Starting with our equation, first thing we want to do is find the slope. Because if it's parallel, what do we know that the slope's going to be? The same slope. Parallel means same slope. So for 13, how would we find the slope here? Awesome. We want to subtract 4x. We want to get this to be in y equals mx plus b form. So we want to subtract 4x. We get 5y is equal to -4x minus 3. What should we do next? Divide by 5. So y equals -4 over 5x minus 3 over 5. So what's our slope here? -4 over 5 is our slope. The rest of the equation does not matter. Our slope of our new line would be what? The same thing. Since it's parallel, it's going to have the same slope. So -4 over 5. So now when we come up with our equation of the line, we have the slope and we have a point. What would we need to do? Point slope form. So our point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So y minus 13, this is x1 and y1. Y minus 13 is equal to -4 over 5 times x minus -5. How would I write minus -5? X plus 5. Perfect. So make sure you simplify that. Don't leave it as x minus negative 5. Change it to plus. Now this would be a perfectly fine answer if the question said in point slope form. This is point slope form. But what if the question said to leave your answer in slope intercept form? What would we need to do? We want to distribute. So y minus 13 is equal to negative 4 over 5 times x. Then we have negative 4 over 5 times 5. I'm going to write that on the side over here. Negative 4 over 5 times, I'll call it 5 over 1. When we multiply with fractions, multiply straight across. So we get negative 20 over 5. And what does negative 20 over 5 simplify to? Negative 4, perfect. So this would be minus 4. They don't need to have a common denominator when you're multiplying. When you multiply, you just multiply the tops and you multiply the bottoms. When you're adding or subtracting, you need a common denominator. What's the next step here? Add 13. Remember, we want to get y all by itself. So we got to move the 13 to the other side. We have y equals negative 4 over 5x plus 9. So this would be our answer in slope-intercept form. So it just depends on what the question's asking for. You'll probably have a question that asks you to leave your answer in point-slope form. You'll probably have another one that asks you for slope-intercept form. So just read the question so you know what form to leave it in. Okay, let's do 15. So in 15, we want to write the equation of a line that passes through the given point, and that is perpendicular to the given line. So two lines that are perpendicular, what do we know about the slopes? They're opposite reciprocals. So meaning that the signs flip and the numbers flip. So for 15, it's already in slope-intercept form. What's our slope here? Negative 3 over 4. The rest of the equation does not matter. But our line that we're coming up with is perpendicular to this line. So what's our new slope going to be? Positive 4 over 3. Perfect. The opposite reciprocal. Flip the sign and flip the number. So when we write our equation of a line, we have the slope and a point. So what would we do? Point slope form. Point slope form is y minus y1. So this is x1 and y1. So y minus 3 is equal to 4 over 3 times x minus 8. So this would be a perfectly fine answer if the question asks for point slope form. But what if the question asks for slope-intercept form? What would we need to do? Distribute. Awesome. So we have y minus 3 is equal to 4/3 x. Then we have 4/3 times negative 8. So 4 over 3 times negative 8 over 1. When we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. So this would give us negative 32 over 3. So minus 32 over 3. What would we do next? Add 3. So y equals 4 over 3x. We have negative 32 over 3 plus 3. How would we add with fractions? What do we need? Now we need a common denominator when you're adding with fractions. So I can make it 3 over 1. Our common denominator will be 3, so I can multiply the top and the bottom here by 3. We get 9 over 3. Then we just add the tops together. Negative 32 plus 9 would be negative 23 over 3. So this would be our answer in slope-intercept form. So not every question asks for both point slope form and slope-intercept form. We're just doing it in both to practice. Just make sure you read the directions on the quiz. See what form it's asking for. You only have to leave it in that one. All right, let's go down to number 16. It says write the equation of a line that passes through the given point and is parallel to the line passing through the given points. So this is going to be our line. The new line is going to pass through the third point that we have. So we're kind of doing the same thing that we were doing in the last couple questions, but instead of giving us an equation, it gives us 2 points. What did we use the equation to find in the last question? The slope. So that's exactly what we're going to do first here. We want to use the 2 points to find the slope. So here we have to use our slope formula. So our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I have x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to label my points before I plug them in. So when I plug it in, I have 4 minus 2 over 1 minus negative 3. 4 minus 2 is what? And 1 minus negative 3? 4. So we get 2 over 4. What does 2 over 4 simplify to? 1 over 2. So this is the slope that we're going to be using. For the first part of this question, it says to find a line that's parallel to this one. So parallel, what do we know that our slope is going to be? The same. So our slope in the first part is going to be 1/2. So now I'm going to use my slope, and I'm going to use the third point that we have here, the point that our line goes through. So if I have a point and I have the slope, what would I need to do? Put it into point slope form. So y minus, this is x1, y1. Y minus y1 is negative 5. How would we write minus negative 5? Y plus 5 equals 1/2 times x minus 1/3. So this would be a perfectly fine answer in point slope form. But what if the question asks us for slope-intercept form? We want to distribute. So we have y plus 5 is equal to 1/2 x. When we multiply here, we have 1/2 times negative 1/3. Multiply straight across. Multiply the tops together and the bottoms together. We get negative 1 over 6. So minus 1 over 6. What would we do next? Subtract 5. Perfect. What do we need when we are adding or subtracting with fractions? Common denominator. So I'm going to make this 5 over 1. We can multiply the top and the bottom by 6. That gives us 30 over 6. So when we subtract our numerators here, we get y equals 1/2 x minus 31 over 6. So this would be our answer in slope-intercept form. All right, next let's do the same thing, but let's do perpendicular now. So the first step's the same. We found the slope already, but what's the slope of a line that's perpendicular to this one? Negative 2. Awesome. The opposite reciprocal of 1/2 would be negative 2. So now let's put that into point slope form. I'm using the third point that we were given here. So we have y minus negative 5, so y plus 5 is equal to negative 2 times x minus 1/3. So this would be a perfectly fine answer in point slope form. What would we do if the question asks for slope-intercept form? Let's distribute. So y plus 5 is equal to negative 2x. Here we have negative 2 times negative 1/3. Multiply the tops together, multiply the bottoms together, so we get 2 over 3. So plus 2 over 3. What would we do next? Subtract 5. Perfect. Our goal is to get y all by itself. So we get y equals negative 2x. What do we need when we add with fractions? Common denominator. I'll make it 5 over 1, but then we need to multiply the top and the bottom by 3, so we get 15 over 3. So 2 minus 15 would be negative 13 over 3. So that would be our answer. So this is slope-intercept form. So these questions, you're doing the same thing that we were in the questions above. You just have to find the slope first. So you're finding the slope of the first 2 points. On the next page, we want to find the x and y intercepts and write your answer as ordered pairs. When you write it as ordered pairs, your x-intercept, the number is going to go in the x spot. For the y-intercept, the number is going to go in the y spot. So questions on the quiz are going to have the same instructions. It's going to say write your answer as ordered pairs. So you got to write it as points. Let's start with 19. For 19, f of x is just a fancy way of saying y. So I'm just going to change that to be y. Let's start by finding the x-intercept. What do we do to find the x-intercept? Awesome. We want to plug in 0 for y. So it's always the opposite. We're going to plug in 0 for y. So we have 0 equals 3x squared minus 6x minus 105. Now from here, we have to solve. So we have an x squared and an x, so we're going to have to factor. What should we do to factor first? We can take out our GCF. What's our GCF? 3. Let's divide everything by 3. If your GCF is just a number, you can divide it out and get rid of it. You don't need to keep it in your answer. We can divide it out. 0 divided by 3 would just be 0. So we have 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 35. If your GCF had an x in it, you want to keep it in the question. You got to keep it out front. But when your GCF is just a number, you can get rid of it. Now from here, we can factor like normal. What are 2 factors of negative 35 that add to negative 2? Awesome. 5 and negative 7. So we have x plus 5 and x minus 7. What should we do next? Awesome. Set them both equal to 0 and solve. So we have x plus 5 equals 0. X minus 7 equals 0. So x is equal to, when we subtract 5 on both sides, x will equal negative 5. And x will equal positive 7. Now we have to write our answer as points. So for our x-intercept, is it going to go in the x spot or the y spot? The x. We have negative 5, 0, and 7, 0. So we have 2 x-intercepts here. Which, that's fine. It'll happen. You can get 2 x-intercepts. It can happen that you get 1 x-intercept. Just be careful with the math. Any questions on our x-intercept? Let's find the y-intercept now. What do we do to find the y-intercept? Plug in 0 for x, so it's the opposite. So we have y equals 3 times 0 squared minus 6 times 0 minus 105. So y equals 3 times 0 squared would just be 0. 6 times 0 is still just 0. So what does y equal?
Negative 105.
Negative 105. How would I write that as a point? 0, negative 105. The y-intercept goes in the y spot. All right, let's do, 21. So same thing, let's start by finding our x-intercept. What do we do to find the x-intercept? Plug in 0 for y. So I have 9x squared plus 8 times 0 squared equals 64. So 8 times 0 squared will go away. It's just 0. When we multiply, we just get 0. So we have 9x squared equals 64. What should we do next to solve? Before we square root both sides, we want to get the x squared all by itself. So what can we do next? Divide by 9. So x squared equals, I'll just leave it as 64 over 9 because it doesn't simplify. Now what can we do? Now we want to square root both sides. So x equals what? Perfect. Plus or minus, and we can take the square root of the top and the bottom, so we get 8 over 3. So whenever you take the square root of both sides, you have to put the plus or minus. So this is technically 2 answers that we got here. So when we write our answer, if you want to leave it as plus or minus, you can. This is going to go in the x spot since it's an x-intercept, so plus or minus 8 over 3, comma 0. Or if you wanted to split it up, you could do that too. So you could say 8 over 3, comma 0, and negative 8 over 3, comma 0. Either way works, but if you want to leave it as plus or minus on the quiz, that's perfectly fine with me. Let's find the y-intercept now. What do we do to find the y-intercept? Plug in 0 into the x. Perfect. So we have 9 times 0 squared plus 8y squared equals 64. 9 times 0 squared would just be 0, so that's going to cancel out. So we have 8y squared equals 64. What should we do next? Divide by 8. So y squared equals, what's 64 divided by 8? 8, perfect. Then we can do what next? Take the square root of both sides. So we get y equals what? What do we have to put when we take the square root of both sides? Plus or minus. Let's see if we can simplify square root 8. What are factors of 8? 4 and 2, and 2 factors of 4? 2 and 2. So we circle 2 of a kind. So what would come to the outside? 2, square root 2. Perfect. So plus or minus 2 square root 2. Now we have to write our answer as a point. So what would our point be? You can split it up. That would be perfectly fine. Or you could just leave it as plus or minus. Either way works. So 0 would go in the the x spot. The number, we just found the y, so that would go in the y spot. So 0, comma, plus or minus 2 square root 2. All right, last part of the review. It says, are the lines, this is the sign for parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So just abbreviated it. But are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So to determine if something's parallel, what do we know about the slopes? They're going to be the same slope. If something's perpendicular, what do we know about the slopes? They're opposite reciprocals. And if it's not the same slope and they're not opposite reciprocal slopes, then it would be neither. So we want to find the slopes for each of our line, and we're going to compare them. So let's do 24. Actually, we'll start with 23. For the first equation, so let's just work with one at a time. How would I find the slope? Perfect. We want to get the y by itself, so we're going to add 3x to move it to the other side. So I have negative y is equal to 3x minus 4. What should we do next? Divide everything by negative 1. So y equals negative 3x plus 4. So what's our slope here? -3. The rest of the equation does not matter. We're only looking at the slope. So our slope is -3. Let's do the same thing in our second equation. What would we do to find the slope? Add 6x. What else? And we can subtract 8. If you wanted to add the 2y to the other side, you could do that too. It doesn't matter which way you move it. Just make sure you get the y all by itself. So -2y is equal to 6x minus 8. What would we do next? Divide by -2. So y equals -3x plus 4. What's our slope here? -3. So if our slopes are the same number, what does that tell us? That it's parallel. Perfect. Make sure you answer the question for this one. You need to write if it's parallel, if it's perpendicular, or neither. Don't just say same slope. Don't just say opposite reciprocals. You need to write, is it parallel, is it perpendicular, or is it neither?